Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this LinkedIn Live, where we will be discussing our topic of enabling success. Lessons that we have learned from winning SAP S4HANA training with using Enable Now. And we've got an esteemed panel of guests today. I'll have them introduce themselves. I'm Donna Boyd. I'm a training project manager with Insight, and I was the training manager for the implementation that we'll be referring to in this conversation. So, Miss Amy Ryan, would you like to say hello?
Hi, yes, thank you, Donna. My name is Amy Ryan. I am the Senior Director of Learning and HR Technology with CROP, Organic Valley. CROP is our business name, and Organic Valley is our brand. And so I've had the pleasure of working with Donna and Dirk as we implemented our SAP S4HANA system, and we used Enable Now for training.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amy. And then we also have Dirk Manuel.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you. So I'm an SAP Enable Now consultant and served as the implementation consultant on Enable Now for Crop for Organic Valley for this implementation.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's jump right in. So, for our first kind of point of discussion, Amy, can you talk us through some of the initial challenges that came up when you were planning the implementation at Organic Valley related to training and specifically with how you were going to use Enable Now for the implementation?
Yes, I'd love to talk through that. We had really started from scratch. We had nothing, we haven't used a system like that. So we were combining 26 different systems to leverage SAP into one. And so the tools that we needed for training all needed to be created. And so SAP or Enable Now really helped us make sure that we were providing some resources to people once we went live. And so to get all of that going, we needed to rally support throughout the organization. We have a very lean organization. And so we really intended to use Enable Now for go live, after go live resources, and worked to create processes to make sure all of our training documents were up to date. We really leveraged the tool and plan to leverage the tool for onboarding down the road. So as we have new hires come on, we plan to use Enable Now for those onboarding processes and help with ramping up new employees. But initially, we had to learn everything. We had to kind of conceptualize what we wanted Enable Now to be for us as an organization and how we wanted to leverage the tool. And I have some really great team members who had vision and insight into the direction that we ended up going with.
That's awesome. And I was a part of that. So I'll jump in on that. Coming into the project at the beginning, in the typical planning kind of phase that we do, I worked with Amy and the team at Organic Valley, and it was not a situation, as she said, this was greenfield for S4, SAP S4, the learning tool space. This was sort of new. They had a very robust learning management system, but this authoring side of it and this kind of diversity and ability and capability for Enable Now specifically was exciting. We didn't want to just come in and use it for the standard use that you use a million times to create simulations and that's it. So as soon as Amy and others, and with the guidance of Dirk, came in, we learned of new capabilities. We really wanted to push it. And then the vision at Crop really was forward thinking. It wasn't just, the same old simulations kind of plan. It was, what does it offer and how can we utilize it? So that was exciting. Amy, what were some of the outcomes when we're talking about being forward thinking using the tool?
One of the things that we were really excited about that helped us was the new web recorder functionality that was offered really closely to when we were doing testing of the system, but prior to our go live. So we were able to leverage that resource to document process steps and data in real time. And it really helped to prepare our testers by producing the recording of those steps as well as a PDF document about what they did. And so that new web recorder option was really helpful for us, and we were able to leverage that really well. It also, when you are recording, we had a one-stop shop for things. So we used training job aids, simulations that were recorded, and then also in-app help right at your fingertips when you're using that platform. So it was really helpful for us to have those resources established.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right. Now, for those specific features you mentioned, what were the most beneficial for use for your plan? So you want to plan to use this for in-app help, post go live support. You mentioned onboarding. So what were the types of things, those features that you briefly mentioned that you were planning to use that you maybe didn't plan for in the beginning of the planning phase of the project?
Right. So now, as we're moving forward, we're using the in-app help, inline help, and we're actually leveraging processes that need to be established and getting those included into our documentation. So when our team members are in the line of work using the system, they have direct access to this is what I do here for my role. And so those are the features that we're really leveraging now with the tool.
And Dirk, when she's talking about in-app help, what is this? What's she talking about there, and how is that useful when you're just thinking outside of the standard simulations and the standard authoring functionality within Enable Now?
Right. So that was SAP Companion, which is a component of SAP Enable Now. It's bundled into the same product, but it provides, in, like you say, in application help overlaid on top of the application. So right in the screen at the point of need, when the user's working, to provide them guidance either on specific objects on the screen, what certain buttons do, or what should be input in certain fields, but also to provide guided tours which guide the users through step by step on exactly what fields to fill in, what buttons to click to achieve a business goal, to complete a business task. So that was definitely one of the major selling points of this, especially with it going onto an S4 system, which it works very, very well with. And as Amy said, there's new functionality coming into, new to crop was using SAP Companion, but then it's very much a living product that SAP keeps on adding to. And as new features were coming in, I was very lucky that we had a very supportive team in crop who were keeping an eye on developments as well. And I'd go into a weekly status meeting and they'd say, hey, we heard about this new feature that's coming. Can we use it? How can we use it? What does it do for us? And we're very much, if it's there, let's see if we can use it and how we can use it most effectively to achieve our goals. So that was definitely an essential component of this.
That's awesome. And Amy, how did that functionality Dirk's referring to, and kind of that model of looking forward using those capabilities, how did that support the requirements and what you were wanting to get out of the training program and the use of Enable Now?
I think we're in the throes of really getting our system up and running for sustainment now. We went live in April, and so now we're in the process of really setting up the foundations of how we're going to leverage the tool long term. What is our processes in place? How can we have the user actually request that things get created for help? What are we missing? And so we're really adding in some feedback mechanisms internally so that we can leverage the tool in the best way. And long term, have it be we have a new hire starting. And so we can assign some curriculum out to that new person. This is how you do and go through the simulations, talk to your colleague about the other work one-off things that might come up that they need to consider, and then continue to be more productive and maybe ramp up even faster when they're working in the line of work.
That's awesome. So it sounds like it expanded a little bit on what you might have expected to get out of it. Very neat.
Absolutely. I think we were thinking it was just going to have some resources and have the ability for people to look things up when they needed some support. And it's really allowed us to have simulations, videos. It walks you through things. It's been really great.
That's cool. What were some of the unexpected lessons learned that came out of the training process with Enable Now?
I mean, just our implementation in general, I think one of the lessons learned was the resourcing requirements that you really need to set yourself up for success. And I think we experienced that our subject matter experts had different priorities than getting the training already, which is why we ended up pivoting to focusing on getting the training ready after we went live, and having those resources up, because you need those subject matter experts to help you guide and develop all of the training materials. That was one of the things that resourcing was something that we learned a little bit, and we would do it differently if we were to go through it next time, making sure we're set up and have the time allowed for those pieces.
And you mentioned it was a pretty lean team. Do
Mhm.
you feel it was still successful with what you were able to use your team for, build the
Yep.
organization and the structure?
Absolutely. I mean, with the
Yeah,
support of the Insight team, I think we were able to get up and running and do what we needed to do to have a successful implementation at go live. And my internal team would not have been able to do it without the support of Donna, you and your trainers, and helping us make sure that we have everything set up in Enable Now at the beginning.
thank you for that. Um, with in hindsight, is there anything we could have done differently? That's always a fun question.
Um, I I think there's always something that you can learn from an implementation like this. And one of the things that I wish we would have done, or maybe had familiarity, was turning the reporting pieces on right away, because at go live, I think we missed, like, where are people trying to get help at, and you can see like what they're clicking on, and we didn't turn that setting on. And so if had we done that, I think we would have had a more quick response to where people might be struggling in the system. And like that's one thing that I wish we would have done differently.
Yeah. And do you have advice for other companies that might be considering using Enable Now, especially coming from a greenfield
Hmm.
implementation or otherwise too, even seasoned companies that might be upgrading or enhancing?
I think I was really fortunate to have a team member who really was passionate about this platform, and was on the cutting edge, as Dirk mentioned. He knew what he wanted. He had a vision for this, and the more you can learn about the platform, and oh, my lights turned off, and the capabilities of it, the more successful I think the implementation will be, because you can leverage it earlier. You can get people using it in a more quick way, versus waiting until the end when you're going to roll out training. Get your testers in it, get your super users in it, and you'll have a lot of success.
Oh, yeah, I love how you mention we're talking really about how you were planning to use it post go live and for all the end users and have help at their fingertips, when everybody's kind of scrambling, trying to get used to the new system. But you're talking testing and early phases, even using the tool for earlier in the project. Very cool. As far as best practices, Dirk, what are some best practices that you can recommend for organizations that are looking to implement Enable Now and using some of these features?
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, to piggyback on what Amy was saying, there's it helps if you know a reasonable amount about the tool. And as she said, we're very fortunate to have someone who's very engaged and had done their homework in advance and knew what the tool was capable of. And so a lot of my initial involvement was basically making sure that that vision could be implemented, which it absolutely can in SAP Enable Now, or this vision could be. And a lot of that was branding and customization and getting it to look the way the crop wanted it to look in terms of just colors, logos, whatever else. So there's a reasonable amount of customization that you can do. It's out of the box stuff. It's not really digging into the code or anything. It's what you can do natively in Enable Now to make it look the way you want to. So I think having had that initial vision of what we want it to look like, what kind of content we want to deliver, then all I had to do was come in and, as I say, implement that vision. So that was nice and easy. So if you have that upfront knowledge of the tool, it helps. But as far as best practices go, my recommendations, it's a big tool. There's a lot of things it can do. Typically, we're looking at three things, which is simulations, courseware, and the in-app help. And a lot of clients I go into, they want to do one of those things and they just focus on that and don't really pay attention to the rest, or don't know that it can do other things. There's places where I've gone where they've just asked for simulations, and I ask what system they're doing it against. They say S4. I'm like, well, why don't you have SAP Companion on that? Because it integrates perfectly and it's really going to help. So they put it on and then realize, oh yeah, that is good. So quite often it's that people don't know the different capabilities. But then again, there's so much to the tool and so much you can do that trying to learn all of that at the outset, if you're learning it blind before you've even bought Enable Now, it's kind of hard. Even when you've got Enable Now, to understand all of those capabilities and little differentiators and things you can tweak, you really need someone like me coming in to explain it to you, because otherwise it's drinking from a fire hose. So it's a lot to take in at once. And I think part of my job is to make sure clients can implement what they need to, which is what we did here, but then also come back and say, hey, it can also do this. Hey, have you considered this bit? Now you're up and running, you can tweak this to do this with it. And that kind of willingness to learn and look at new stuff, I think, is absolutely essential. And it goes both ways as well, not just me coming in saying, hey, Enable Now can do this or can do this now, but going back to Crop and saying, okay, what are you doing here? What else are you looking at? What other bits of your training or knowledge management platform are there? And then seeing if Enable Now can bring something to that. And yes, this is now 18 months after my initial engagement, and I'm still going forward, learning other stuff that Crop are doing and being able to suggest ways that Enable Now can facilitate that and improve on it. So find out a lot up front and be willing to continually learn and adjust as you go.
That's excellent, because I'll say too, Dirk, working with an expert such as yourself, it wasn't there are those capabilities, but it wasn't like it ever felt impossible when we learn about or get an idea of, hey, there's this something new we'd like to try, or we have certain things pre-existing here at Organic Valley, and can we link or connect or utilize existing documentation and locations of things somehow to incorporate into what we're building for future state for Crop. And having your guidance and technical knowledge, your expertise on ways we could do things was really helpful. So that was nice. It wasn't like it was impossible, very technically challenging and difficult. Some of it was, but you translated that. So having that expert to guide you is very helpful. Because you could sort of plug and play, but if you want to really take it and use it to its full capability and beyond, and Crop is still building on that, I think to have that guidance, you can really be creative with it. There's so much there. I agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And Amy, so what are the next steps? I know you have built sort of an organization to support this. What does it look like for future, now that you're past your go live and you're still trying to, incorporate this into future state of learning and onboarding at Crop?
So we have a formal team working on this as we move forward, and we have a way for people to let us know what might be missing or what changes they would recommend that we add. But we're also leveraging our super user group, and so super users are working in the line of work, they're seeing it, and so our long-term plan is to really have a lot of folks throughout our organization ready to kind of help us make sure that this tool doesn't get out of date very quickly. If processes change, what does that look like? Because SAP, for example, has regular updates. If our training materials don't reflect those, then it's not going to be helpful for the end user. So we're establishing the processes that will help us make sure everything is current and ready for the new user on day one.
That's awesome. And that includes not only you're keeping the system and everything up to date when there are new things that you could have, but the most important is that documentation and having the
Mhm.
structure around it, the ownership of both the tool and the documentation. So you've really built that. And again, you don't have tons and tons of people who can just be a huge, Enable Now team. You've really built a lean structure around it that can work efficiently. And I think that's commendable. And it seems like it's been successful.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing where we are in even 6 months from now to see how it all shakes out.
Oh, me too. And then final note here to leave on a high note, I hope. What was some of the feedback you've been hearing, both from super users, because I know they were the first early adopters when we first were trying to navigate and launch and expand this thing, and then from end users as well?
Feedback was really great. I think people were surprised to see that we had support right in the line of their work. And so as we communicated out, we did some additional standard communication to remind people that the help was right there for them versus having to look somewhere else. So that was one thing that we got some positive feedback on. And then early on, our we found that our super user group, we had them test some of the recording during our testing cycle, and they remembered that they did that and wanted to start doing that after go live to create additional resources for their team members. So it's been really great.
Wow, that's wonderful. Very cool. All right. Well, that's all I have, everybody, for today. Dirk or Amy, did you have any final comments?
Amy, you first.
I don't think I have any final comments. Good luck if you decide to go on this journey. Enable Now has been really helpful for us.
Yeah, and from my side, I appreciate the opportunity. I think we've done great work here. Again, it's an ongoing, it's a product with a lot in it, and it's always growing. New functionality is always being added. Do be willing to try those things and think more than your initial requirements, because you might find there are other things you can do, like integrate with Signavio or Cloud ALM or something else, or integrate with your learning management system. There's a lot of things that it can do that you might not have initially had in your scope. And I know with a lot of projects, we don't always have the time to play around or, allow scope creep, but it is a product that will absolutely grow with you if you want it to.
And I love that. I was going to say something similar, Dirk, that we started with a plan in the beginning, and scope creep is not something I ever like or love. But when we learned of new functionality and we could quickly research it, or someone that we mentioned had done his homework and research on it, we brought it to you. We were able to implement some of these new things with our existing plan and quickly flex and apply them. And it was really cool. I've never been able to really expand using Enable Now like we did on this project. We sort of always go in with a structured plan, and then we follow the plan, and we might tweak or expand a little bit. But this was very exciting with the new functionality and the expansion of it, like we did here. So it was great. Well, I want to thank everybody for your time. This is wonderful. Thank you, Dirk Manuel and Amy Ryan again. And for anybody, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us at insight.com. And I think that's all we have for you today. Take care and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.